All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Stock Sense webinar about choosing the right goat. My name's Jack. I'm the project officer here at Stock Sense. So I'll give you a little bit about Stock Sense. Stock Sense is a project run by the Victorian Farmers Federation. We're funded by the Cattle Compensation Fund and the Sheep and Goat Compensation Fund, and proudly delivered by the VFF Livestock Group. Stock Sense was established to help Victorian livestock producers maintain and improve animal health and welfare, as well as Victoria's overall biosecurity status. So we do this through numerous ways. We run educational workshops, webinars like the one you're watching tonight. We develop fact sheets and we release material through social media and e-newsletters. We just have a few upcoming workshops I'll quickly run through. So we have one in Gisborne this Friday. So it's about post-lambing. We have one in Kyneton about buying livestock with confidence on the 14th of August. Another one of them in Yea on the 28th of August. We have one in Beechworth, Livestock Health Essentials, 11th of September, and one in Leongatha on the 18th of September. So check out our website if you want to find out more about them. So for tonight, this will run from 6 o'clock to 7:30. Rhonda will start with dairy and companion goats. She's from the Australian Dairy Goats. And then we have George going over the traceability essentials. He's from Integrity Systems Company. And then we'll have a half an hour Q&A. So you can type your questions throughout the webinar. They'll be anonymous and we'll go over them at the end. So a few housekeepings, like I said, Q&A at the end. So please type your answers into the box as we go along. It'll be 1 hour followed with 30 minutes for questions. Slides will be sent out via email along with a link to the recordings at the conclusion of the webinar. And a survey will also be sent out after the final webinar in the series. I'll also have a QR code at the end of the webinar. If you could fill that out, it would be greatly appreciated. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and see all our previous webinars. So this is this is just a few ways to stay in touch. We have our email there, our website, and we also have Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. But I'm sure you've heard enough from me, so I'll pass over to Rhonda and she will get us kicked off. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Patton, and this session is to give you a very brief and not all-encompassing glimpse at dairy and miniature goats for small and peri-urban landholders, and what you need to consider before deciding which goats you believe would suit your ideas and requirements. Not everyone will agree with these slides, as all goat owners have their own ideas and beliefs. Generalities are always used, as goats don't read and comply with the How to Be a Well-Behaved Goat manual. You will always need to use your common sense. First, considerations. Before purchasing your goats, you will need to consider council regulations and bylaws. Does your council require a permit for livestock? Some councils allow 2 goats on a 1,000 square metre block or 4 goats on 4,000 square metres. You must have or apply for a PIC, which is a property identification code. Fencing needs to be done before you get your goats. If there's not enough strands, the wires are too loose, too low, too high, your goats will go and visit your garden, or worse, visit your neighbours. Goats are herd animals. There are exceptions, but they are not your everyday occurrence. You will need to have at least 2, either 2 wethers, 1 doe and a wether, or 2 does. Goats need shelter. Dairy goats and miniature goats do not have waterproof coats. Many will happily graze in the rain, but not in the wind and rain, as the wind drives the rain straight through to the skin. Feed needs to be stored to keep it dry and away from vermin. Bales of oaten hay and bags of oaten and loosened chaff can be stored in 240-litre garbage or recycling-sized bins to keep out the mice and rats before they contaminate it and destroy it. If you're going to kid down does, you really need to be able to lock them away from harm. Plus, it is so much more pleasant being in the shelter when attending mums and kids. You can squat to milk if you're supple, but it's easier if you have a dedicated milk stand under a roof, preferably with walls, to shelter away from the wind. The odds are you will need a vet sometime in your goat keeping career. Do you have a vet close by? And very importantly, do they treat livestock? How far are you prepared to travel to see a livestock vet? Facebook is not the answer in emergencies. Do not leave your ill goat for days and then decide, oh, she's dying, I'll take her to the vet. Vets have desperate trouble resurrecting practically dead goats, which is then compounded by owners bad-mouthing the vet for not being able to pull a miracle out of their hat. Going to the vet early with an illness is a lot less expensive, and the odds are that you will still have a live goat and you are developing a relationship with your vet. Goats do not eat everything, and many plants are toxic, like rhododendron, azalea, lantana, sugar gums, and wilted stone fruit leaves. You really need to read about suitable plants. Secondary considerations. You really should do some quick research on the non-curable effects of CAE and JD before purchasing your goats. Caprine arthritis faciliitis is a lentivirus that is passed on via body secretions, like their saliva, mucus, and milk. It affects joints, udders, internal organs, and in kids' brains. JD, Johne's disease, is a bacterial wasting disease in which the animal literally starves to death and contaminates your property. Goats need access to dry fibre all of the time, whether that is bush acreage with plenty of undergrowth and trees or hay. Hay is sometimes very expensive. What do you want your goats for? Do you want fresh milk daily, meat for home, fibre for craft, to clean up an overgrown property, providing that the overgrowth isn't toxic to them, as entertaining pets that can also teach responsibility, or showing, knowing that a handful of broad sashes can never be traded for a chocolate bar, but the friendships that are made are worth it. Does or wethers. You don't have to kid your does, but they are vocal when in season. Wethers don't have the hormones, but attention must be paid when feeding them to avoid urinary calculi. Bucks are not pets. They stink in the breeding season, they are strong, and if kept by themselves, bored and lonely, which translates into destructive behaviour like shed wrecking. Bucks need a companion, another buck or a wether. Equipment. Some can be purchased off the shelf, such as hoof trimming equipment like hoof shears, knife, file or grinder, and a digital thermometer. You cannot guess a goat temperature. Ears and gums may tell you when the goat is cold, but you need a thermometer to know its actual temperature. Other items are repurposed, made or adapted: hay racks, feeders and water troughs. Another decision is, do you want disbudded or polled or horned goats? Bucks really do stink when they're in rut. They have scent glands and urine. They make up for the lack of odour from the does and wethers. Urine is sprayed onto their face, beard and front legs when paddocked with other bucks, their urine gets all over each other's body. This buck is actually white, not cream or biscuit, in his summer coat. If you decide to keep a buck or two, you will learn the spray avoidance dance, as bucks will often spray while you're standing beside them, at the front of them, or just near him. Learn about. You need to learn about biosecurity. The simplest form of biosecurity is to have on-property footwear and off-property footwear. Your on-property footwear is the only footwear that goes into your paddocks and sheds. When visiting another property, wear or take your off-property footwear that have been scrubbed clean of all dirt and debris. Read the Goat Welfare Standards and Guidelines 2026, available on the internet. It's useful and legal information. To repeat, you really need to learn about CAE and JD, as they will wreck your herd if you bring it onto your property. Confirmation. Learn about proper confirmation, not fashionable confirmation, and faults that will impact the longevity of your livestock. A house milker does not require a perfectly attached udder, but she needs enough attachments that it doesn't drag on the ground. Extremely soft pastons in young stock is undesirable, as when they age, they will eventually have their dew claws on the ground, which in turn will affect their legs, body, and gait. Best practice is to look and test before treating parasites. Lice, check to see if they are biting or sucking lice before purchasing any lice-killing product. Intestinal worms, do a fecal count before worming, as you may not need to worm, or you'll need to purchase a product that kills the worms that your goats have. If you want to purchase a particular breed of goat, read that goat's breed standard so that you'll know what you're looking at. As an example, a British Alpine with a white belly or huge white spot is not a registrable British Alpine. They are disqualifying faults for that breed. Read about condition scoring and learn to do it. It's a very easy skill to acquire. It's so much nicer to look at a goat in condition score 3 than one in condition score 1. The calcium to phosphorus ratio is extremely important with males. The ratio is 2 parts calcium to 1 part phosphorus, or slightly more. This is to minimise the risk of urinary calculi. Loose minerals, seaweed granules, and mineral blocks can be purchased for goats. Some are specifically labelled for goats, others are for all livestock. These need to be placed in some form of shelter so that your goats can't stand on or in them, and that rain will not erode and waste them. Feed requirements. There is no one perfect way to feed goats. Ask 100 goat breeders about what to feed, and you'll receive 100 different answers. It depends on the breed and class of stock. Are they dry, pregnant, lactating, or growing? Is the property lush with growing grass or bare soil, etc.? Dairy does in milk require their feed to include 14 to 18% protein with a buffer to help prevent acidiosis. Pellets and commercial grain mixes have a buffer included, but with a homemade grain mix, you will need to mix it in and prevent your goats from sifting it out. Bicarb is a common form of buffer. Acidiosis can be a very serious problem, which can and does kill goats. Long fibre, not just fibre, is required by ruminants to develop enough saliva for natural buffering of feed. Commercial chaff is not long fibre. Long fibre for goats is a minimum of 25 millimetres in length. Ideally, goats are fed so that the hooves do not get in the feeder. This is nearly impossible unless you build it or specifically purchase it, and you need enough feeders to stop the bully or bullies monopolising all the feeders. Some more feeding. Feed hay in some form of hay rack, as if it's fed on the ground, it makes perfect bed and toilet before it's partially eaten. Hay nets are dangerous as hooves get caught and eventually heads when the strings get chewed through. Empty or partially empty hay bags can also be fatal, as the head is poked into one hole and out another, but reversing the actions often don't work, leading to a fatal result. Tree branches, fruit, veggies and their peelings are enjoyed, noting that different goats have different taste buds. Mown grass clippings are not feed. They are bad as they have oil and grease mixed in with the grass, and a pile of grass clippings ferments unfavourably. As earlier spoken about, use your new knowledge of condition scoring when feeding. Dairy goat pros. Many dairy goats will milk through for 2 or more years without kidding again, which gives a home enough milk for fresh milk, cheese, yogurt, soap, cosmetics, and for home brewers, vodka. As a rule, dairy goats are friendly companion animals who enjoy attention. They are very peaceful and relaxing to watch whilst grazing, ruminating, and sleeping, except for those heart-stopping dead sleep moments. It is entertaining to watch both adults and juniors playing antics. They make excellent cross-grazers with horses and ponies, with each species' stomach destroying their opposite species' worm eggs. Goats are very good at cleaning up paddocks, eating weeds like dock, blackberries, hawthorn, and thistles. Goats slowly kill the blackberries by eating the new leaves until the plant runs out of sugar reserves and dies. Goat milk and colostrum is suitable milk replacement for lambs, calves, carriers, puppies, and foals. Owners will need to add some sugar or glucose for very young foals. Showing can be enjoyable if you're not playing for sheep stations, as it's one of the few times you can talk goat all day without the sighs of boredom from your non-goat friends. Son and kids eating thistles. Some goats love thistles, others won't touch them. It's amazing to watch them maneuver their mouth and lips around and over the prickles. Dairy goat cons. Standard sized goats are big and they eat a lot, but the majority of does produce lots of milk. Dairy wethers still need some feed. Nigerian dwarfs are small and don't need much food, but they can often produce enough milk for a small household. You really need to have a second person willing to milk for you in times of incapacitation, injury, or illness. A license is required to sell milk. There are very few veterinary products which are registered for use in goats, let alone milking goats. Your vet can give recommended dose. Some people call it a prescription. Milking is most definitely a lifestyle. One way to do it is twice a day milking after kidding. Then 4 to 6 months later, when her milk volume has dropped to half her maximum volume, start milking once a day if you want to milk through. There's no such thing as deciding to go away next weekend unless you have someone organised to continue your routine. Goats are always curious, and this can lead to trouble and problems, damage to items or property, injury or fatality. Other decisions. You'll need to decide what type of goat you want, registered with a breed society or not, dairy, miniature, fibre or meat, and where or who you want to purchase your goats from. Your decision is dependent upon your decision on whether you want your goats to be tested negative for CAE and JD from a breeder who tests. Not all breeders test. Ask for the goat's veterinary certificate or purchase a possibly infected goat from a backyarder, sale yards, pound or rescue. Pulpy kidney can be a problem, as well as tetanus. So another decision is whether you want to vaccinate your goats using 3-in-1, 5-in-1 or 6-in-1 if your goats are infected with cheesy gland. You can also have your goats vaccinated against JD. If you choose to breed, some decisions really need to be thought out before joining. Do you want horns or do you want the kids disbudded? Disbudding, if not polled, is most often done on the 3rd day after birth by an experienced person. It's not something that you use YouTube for to learn to do your first kids. The other really important decision is whether you're going to keep, sell, or grow out for meat. Dairy wethers make very nice meat. Milking for home use. If you and your second or emergency milking person want to be comfortable milking your doe, a roof space, preferably with walls to keep out the wind, rain and burning sun, for your milk stand, milk bucket and hard feed storage. When cleaning your milk bucket, which is only used for milk. It's easiest if you have separate cloths or sponges or brushes for milk items and another one for general cleaning. If a milking machine is used, commercial detergents, alternating the acid and alkaline detergents, are the best to use as they are formulated for the removal of milkstone and milk fats, with bleach in cold water used every so often for any potential coliforms. The first rinse of the cups, tubes and test bucket is done using slightly warmer water than body temperature so that the milk fats aren't set. Milk filters for hair, etc. can be commercial disposable milk filters or cloth that you wash after each session. Easy to clean bottles have a reasonably wide mouth and gentle curves to make cleaning so much easier and quicker. And to reiterate, milking is a lifestyle. Commercial thoughts. The size of your farm, geographical area, whether it is dry country, has irrigation, high rainfall, is rocky, or has productive soils, will feature in your consideration as to whether a commercial operation is viable or not. Other major considerations are access to bulk feed. Is your property in a crop growing area or hay growing area, as well as the volume and quality of water available, as lots of water is required for cleaning and drinking. Poor quality water reduces the goat's intake, which in turn will reduce their milk volume. Infrastructure. Do you have sheds and yards that you can convert, or will it be new sheds, fencing and concrete and plant? Licenses and permits are many with government and council. As department names change quite frequently, I'll just give them generic names: agriculture, environment and health. Relief milkers are hard to find, not like cow dairy relief milkers. As noted before, worming products are very restricted and organic farming is very difficult with finding a cost-effective organic worming system. How will your milk be used? Will you sell it to a manufacturer? Does the manufacturer want your milk? And at what price? Plus, how will the milk be transported? Or will you build a dedicated factory, which is more licenses and permits, to make your own value-added products? And how will you sell them? At what price? So that your product is profitable and competitive. More decisions. You are going to use a lot of hay. Pasture or grass, cereal or lucerne hay. Where are you going to purchase it from? Out of a neighbour's paddock, from a feed store, or off the back of a truck? And how will you store it? Rats and mice destroy cereal hay. What size can you purchase and handle? Small squares, compressed squares, large or larger big squares, big or bigger round bales. Small squares and compressed bales can be stored in 240 litre waste bins. Hay wastage is huge and normal. What are you going to do with it? Compost it in big piles or bins, or take it straight out into the paddock, being aware of any weeds that may germinate. Urine, manure and waste hay improve the soil immensely. You can see from the photos what a wonderful resource wasted hay, urine, manure and used bedding does for the soil and grass growth. Notes. Goats are prey animals, and as part of that survival instinct, they hide their illnesses. You need to learn to look at your goats and realise when they're acting not quite normally and use your thermometer. Learn what the normal goat temperature range is. Adults and kids and hot days is 38.6 to 40 degrees Celsius. Pulse rate, kids and adults differ. The range is 65 to 95 beats per minute. Respiratory rate, kids 20 to 40 per minute. Adults 10 to 30 per minute. Goats can be used as hiking companions, and when they are adults, they can carry a small load dependent upon their own weight. Fun can be had with agility courses. A mentor is extremely useful. Will the vendor act as a mentor? Do you want them as a mentor? Or can you find someone else to receive guidance from? You'll need to learn to trim hooves, as there's no such professional person like a horse farrier or a cattle hoof trimmer. Trimming is done with hoof shears, pruners, knife, file, or small grinder. If you're going to purchase Nigerian dwarfs or pygmies, consider asking about DNA. To reiterate, purchase a digital thermometer. At the first sign of sickness that your goat is off or not quite normal, take its temperature after assessing for wounds. Notes continued. Individual and small groups of trees need tree guards. A temporary fix is to mix goat manure and water to a slurry and paint over the goat accessible areas, repainting after rain. Goats can walk up solid stays and pop over the fence. Goats love a playground. Care must be taken when constructing play equipment for holes where heads and hooves can get stuck. Curious goats are forever sticking their heads in places that they shouldn't. Before purchasing any goats, you need to have a really critical look at their new area and attempt to fix any potential problems before they become a disaster. Dairy goat breeds. Sun and does are feminine, ranging in colour from white to biscuit with tan skin, and generally they have a gentle temperament and plain tasting milk. Toggenburg. Toggenburgs are robust, with their body colour ranging from light fawn to chocolate, and their Swiss markings are white to fawn. They can have a bulldozer temperament and the milk often having a nutty taste. The British Alpine is a tall, rangy and graceful goat. The main colour being black and the Swiss markings are white to fawn. The skin is black and the butterfats are high. The Anglo-Nubian is large and exotic with a Roman nose and long pendulous ears. They can be any colour. More often than not, Anglo-Nubians have large teats and the butterfats are high. The Australian Brown is an elegant goat ranging from a silvery fawn to dark chocolate. The Australian Milan is black, rangy and graceful goat. La Mancha. Ears are the defining feature of La Manchas. Bucks have gopher ears which are 0 to 2.5 centimetres long with no or minimal cartilage. Does can have gopher or elf ears which are a maximum of 5 centimetres long and the ear tip must turn down. They come in all different colours and can be dominant towards other goats. The Alpine is tall, rangy and graceful in all colours and many patterns, with the skin colour being dark and has high butterfats. The Sable is a feminine doe, blue-grey to tan colouring. Swiss markings may be full or partial, black, brown or white. White patches are okay, and the dorsal stripe may extend down the shoulders. Nigerian Dwarf. Straddling both categories of dairy goat and miniature goat is the Nigerian Dwarf. Grade P and Ds have both a minimum and maximum height as an adult, producing high butterfats with an average of 1 to 2 litres a day. The NDs can have multiple colours and patterns. Way too many are overfed and fat. They should look like a dairy goat. Like all goats, many will continue to grow after a 3-year-old height measurement. Mini milkers are small versions of their full-size counterparts with varying maximum heights dependent on the breed and registering association. Miniature goat pros. Miniature goats are little and don't eat much, which often leads to overfeeding. Some milk very well and can provide milk for a small household. They are definitely cute and friendly companions who are relaxing, entertaining, and peaceful to watch. They can cross graze with cattle and horses. Different registration societies have different heights, measuring age, and type categories. Registration is a requirement for show. Mini goat cons. Fencing needs to be very good for miniature goats, as the small bodies can squeeze through small gaps. New babies will walk through a standard farm gate with 9 by 16.5 centimetre gate infill mesh. Miniature goats are livestock and need someone to check on them daily when you go away for work or a holiday. They are little, but they move super quick and they are low to the ground. Same husbandry requirements as dairy goats. Not supposed to be in the hay rack. Gaps are standard or mini milker won't fit through. A miniature can easily squeeze through. Australian miniatures are gentle and friendly, with the does being feminine. The height at grade P varies with the different societies. Minis are all colours and any ear shape. Different registration societies have ear shape as breeds, others as a subcategory. Elf miniatures are not a dairy breed, but they do have the elf and gopher ear requirements. Elf ears were in the feral or rangeland herd long before Lamarches arrived. A characteristic is a shortened forehead. Pixie has the normal or usual goat ears, erect and open. Munchen ears are mostly horizontal with the ends pointing down. The silky or the sheltie, ideal, is a long flowing, silky, well-blended coat. Pygmies. The pygmy colourings are solid black, agouti and caramel, with black or brown markings. The Australian appendix pygmies are permitted to be all colours and markings. Pygmies are heavily muscled barrels on short, heavy boned legs and have a dished head. If you're going to breed pygmies, understand body type and kitting, asking yourself, is the doe narrow or cobby, and will her pelvis match the potential progeny's width? Colonial Percy Island goats are goats which were isolated on Middle Percy Island off the Queensland coast since 1874 and are now on the mainland. Does are feminine and any colour except mottling. Registered with the Australian All Breeds Miniature Goat and Sheep Society. Mini boars are a mini meat animal suited to small properties. They are a mini version of the standard boars and have the same colour range. Disbudding is acceptable. Different breed societies. The first two, ADG and DGSA, are dairy goat associations. The next four, AA, BMGS, MGA, MGBA, and AGB are miniature goat societies. And the last one, MPGAA, is exclusively for pygmies. All have Facebook pages. Thank you for looking, reading, and listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Rhonda. While George is getting his screen up, I'll just remind everyone to hang around because we'll go through questions after George has finished his presentation. So the Q&A is just down the bottom of your screen. If you can't see it, just click the three dots under the more, and then you can click on the Q&A and they'll be anonymous, and we'll go through them after George's presentation. Awesome, Rhonda. Thank you. I'll just give a quick introduction to George. So, George Basha is from Integrity System Company. He's helped countless producers across Australia better understand NLIS LPA and NVD requirements. So I'll pass over to George and we'll go through his presentation, but hang around and yeah, we'll go through the Q&A at the end.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you very much. And then thanks for the opportunity. I've been around now since 1999 when NLIS was going to be introduced. So yeah, I've been here say from day zero really before NLIS was even implemented. Today I'll go through tags, some of your responsibilities, or that's not in our remit. We don't ask you or tell you what you have to do. That's all done by the state and territory governments. In your case, Victorian DPI. So I work now for a company called Meat and Livestock Australia. We do a lot of things at MLA, but one of them is this sort of work. So that is training, also helping implement a traceability system, which I'll go through today. So we'll go through the goat tags. So another part of our role is to evaluate and approve tags to be used in our livestock. So MLA looks after cattle, sheep, and of course goats, which is why we're here today. So the goat, sheep, and alpaca tags are all they're a similar tag. So it's the one tag made the exact same way, but there is a difference. When you order a tag, it has a number printed on the outside of the tag and the number embedded in the microchip. So the number printed on the outside identifies if it's a sheep or goat tag. So sheep tags have S and T as a middle letter, and goats have K and L. So if you're breeding goats, then you can get a coloured tag, and that has the letter K in the middle. If you buy in goats, that must be tagged. You buy in goats, and if the tags fall out, then you put a second tag, or you put another tag in, because the original tag's fallen out, and that tag's what they call a post breeder, and that has the letter L, and that's pink in colour. So here's some examples, and this is on our website, so the Integrity Systems website. Just some different colours, tags, and these are the applicators. It's very important to use the correct applicator. If you look at these 3 tags or 4 tags here, they all look like pliers, but they've got different length pins, different size pins, and they push the tag in to a certain strength. So make sure you always get the correct applicator. Now, MLA did a study on tag and tag retention, and we found that a majority of the tags, it was over 80% of all the tags that fell out, was because they weren't put in correctly. So they weren't put in the correct place in the animal's ear, and they weren't put in using a correct applicator. So here's a goat leg band. Some of the goats, as you know, you can't put tags in their ears. So we've gone through the process of putting in a leg band. So basically the rules are you must tag all your goats before they leave your property. And as Rhonda said, if you have goats on your property, you must get what's called a property identification code. And you call the Victorian DPI and their offices in Bendigo who look after tag ordering and your property identification code. So there's some different applicators. If you have a lot of sheep, you want to use this rapid or turbo tagger. So you put, I think if it's 12 tags, you say if you have 12 in a row, or you can just use the one at a time. So we have some here that are conditionally approved. That is, they've gone through the first phase of accreditation. We haven't done a 3-year rollover. So make sure you use the right tag. That is goat tags for your goats. Alternatively, you can use something like a leg band and get the right applicator, put in the right part of the animal's ear, and get breeders if you're going to breed your sheep, or post breeders if you're buying in animals, and you need spares to replace them if they fall out. So what we'll do is I'll go through and show you now how to go into the system and meet your legislative requirements. So there's two requirements that we deal with, two legal requirements that we get asked to help you guys use. One is the tagging. So I just showed you all the tags. The other one is if you move a goat onto your property, you have to do a transfer. And I'll go through and show you how you do transfers using the NLIS database. Even if you're showing goats, if you take your goat to the local show, you still have to put a tag down with you because it's leaving your property, and that tag stays with the animal for life. So tag the animal for life. If it leaves your property, it must have a tag in its ear. And if you take them to a show, the show will actually record a movement saying this animal is here now. But for you, when you buy animals in or move animals onto your property, whether you're buying them, loaning them, if they come onto your property, it is your legal responsibility to go to the NLIS database, which is here now in front of you, and to transfer those animals onto your property within 48 hours. So we have 5 different computer systems, 5 different passwords, getting confusing for a lot of people. So we've integrated them all into one called My Malay. So I'll go into My Malay. If you don't have a My Malay account, you can simply sign in. And the URL or the address for the internet is www.nlis.com.au. So we'll go here now, I'll go log in via My Malay. I've done this obviously beforehand. Got my email address and my password. We'll log into My Malay. And from this place I can get into, so from this one login called single sign-on, I can sign into my LPA, get my MVDs. You know, if I'm part of MSA, obviously I'm not impacted here, but MSA, NLIS, Sheep Genetics, all the other systems that we run. But we're only used to go into NLIS. So today we'll go continue to NLIS. Now I've got more than one account. I've got my producer account, which I use for testing and for demonstrations. And I've also got my administration account. And if you have multiple, if you have a property where you manage, a sheep property you manage, and your own farm at home where you've got your goats, you can have multiple accounts all linked to the one My Malay. But for a majority of people with livestock, it'd be one account only. So we'll click on here, log in. Now taking us to what's called a producer homepage. So we refer to anyone who's got livestock, not abattoirs or sale yards, but as a producer. So all of you, now whether you have one animal or 1,000 or 10,000, you're still considered to be a producer. You've got livestock on your property. And as Rhonda said, you're part of this whole biosecurity network. So I've got home, welcome George. It's got my details here. Up the top, there's a help tool button. Click on the help tools. And these are all user guides or tech tips to help you if you need any assistance. So they're all clickable. I won't go through them in too much detail or any detail at all. Close back out. So now I've got welcome George. Now I want to work with sheep. Today I need to work with goats. So I'm going to go past and select goat individual. That's what we have to do now. In Victoria in 2017, they made it mandatory in 2017 for individual identification of sheep and goats. So I'll click on goat individual. And these are all the functions we can now run for goats. So first thing we do is make sure that email address is correct. Our contact details are correct. If they're not, I can click on change, continue, and I can make my update here to my contact details. So make sure they're accurate so we can contact you. Click back home. Now, if you don't have goats, sorry, was there a comment? If you don't have goats, then you click on, I want to change my types of livestock. We go, and then you'll be able to select goats. In this case, you'll say we no longer have sheep, remove the sheep, make sure goats are ticked. You continue. Now that's the only one on our drop-down menu. So today we'll go to goat individual. Now I've been asked to show you some reports and how to move how to move goats. So I've got a list of tags here, some goat tags. Now with these numbers, you'll notice that these numbers have letters and numbers. Now the first part, this is the number that's typed on the outside of the tag. The first bit is the property identification code, your pick. Then the letter A is the company who made this tag. And the letter K identifies it is a goat breeder tag. So I've got 3 tags here that I've read visually, and 3 tags that I've got a scanner to pick up and read. Doesn't matter which one you use. You can use a combination of both. So we'll put them both in, as in the both types of numbers. So from here, what do I want to do today? I want to livestock moved onto my property because that is my legal responsibility. Click on this. Go. Now we're going to do it on screen. It's a lot easier doing it on screen rather than having to create a file. So I want to type in the details manually on the screen. Now there's 6 pieces of information. The first one are the tag numbers. So I'll just copy them from that screen before. So these are the tags. These are the animals that I'm bringing onto my property. And they're coming onto my property. They came off this property. So these numbers look a bit strange, QZZs. They're our test or our training data. The MVD number I had was, they're moving today. I bought them this morning. Now there's a total number of 10 head. Sounds a bit odd. There's only 6 tags because you can introduce goats onto your property, say from New South Wales, that are not tagged with an electronic tag. They all have to be tagged with a visual tag in all the other state and territories, or they did. They've all changed the law. And from the 1st of January this year, all animals have to be tagged, born. So if they're older animals, so older cattle, sheep and goats, they don't have to have an electronic tag. Sorry, sheep and goats only. So if they're old goats, as in they're born before a certain date, they don't need to be electronically tagged. They'll just have a visual tag. So you can't copy or write that individual tag number down. So if you like 10 goats, you put 10. There's the 6 numbers. We continue. It's going to confirm, is the number of head 10? And are these the 6 tag numbers? Are they going here? Coming from here? And is that the NVD serial number? So we go, yes, hit send. And that'll just send it off to the database and it'll process the file. So it's given us confirmation that it's gone through. It's been accepted now by the analyzed database. Did it work? We'll click on View My Transaction History. So from what have I done today? So this is going to show me all the things I've done on the system today. And these are the ones we just did now. So we did these 3. I know I only did 1 transaction, but that 1 transaction is split up into 2 individual transactions. So this is what they call the complete one. So it's saying, here's the file of the 6 tags, and I'm moving 10 animals. The system automatically breaks it up and says, well, this is the 6 animals. There's the 6 animals. So the system automatically breaks it up into 2. So the 6 animals with all the details. And this one here is in computer language, But believe me, he's saying that moving from here with this NVD number and the total number of head equals 10. So all these you do in one update, and you don't have to worry about too much about this, as long as you enter the correct data in. And in a year's time, all goats will have to be tagged electronically, so we'll remove this function away. But at the moment, everyone's asked to use this function. So you say, even if it's 6 out of 6, you just put the 6 head count number and you put the 6 individual tag numbers in. So we have it complete. So it's all worked. And that pretty much is how you do a transfer. I'll go back home. So from your home page, we break up the whole analyze database into 3 sections. These are to change your account. This is the notify. So this is the doing part. So this is what we clicked on. We want to move an animal. And then down here is the reporting part. So I'll go through and show you a report. So I go view, generate all the reports available for me as a producer. I go, let's look at what's moved onto my property. So livestock transferred onto my property. And I might be going fast, but you'll be able to see this in slow motion or when you get the video. So what's moved today? And there's the 6 head we moved today. That's the NVD serial number. So that's what we moved today. If you want to see what you moved in the last 12 months, let's change the year from the 29th of July 2025 to today. 10. So when you buy animals and they say to you, we'll do the transfer, you can log in and check. Or if you do it yourself, you can always go back and check, did it all work? Yes, it did. Now there's a list of them here. If you want to see if the person who you sold animals to has done the transaction, because that's what their job is, they go on livestock transferred off pick. And let's look at what's moved in the last 3 years. So 100 goats have moved off my property in the last 3 years. And this is where they've gone to. There's the destination. So that's how you check it. Typically, you might send animals to someone because they bought them off you, and that's how they were transferred. So you just look, that's the last 12 months. So in the last 12 months, nothing has moved off my property. So I suggest when you sell your goats or move your goats off your property, log in and after about a week and say, look, you haven't taken them off my system. Record the movement. So this is a way you can check that they have been done. Another report, and the last report I'll show you is a thing called devices purchased. So when you buy goat tags, the tag manufacturer, when they sell you the tags, they'll automatically insert the tags into our system. So you don't have to do anything. We will understand that you have purchased tags. We certainly don't know if they are live animals. All we know is you've got, in this case here, you've got 50 tags. They were purchased on the 4th of the 4th, 2024. And there's the 50 tags. And as you can see, they've got AKU. So they've got a K, which means they are goat tags. We'll just go back here. I'll change my types of livestock. I'll add sheep individual. I'm just going to show you there is a difference in the tags. So view general reports again. We'll go back to devices purchased. Look at what sheep tags I've purchased. And hopefully there's some here. So there's the ESX, so E is the company that made the tag, and the letter S is the sheep identifier. So a common problem we do get is when we do any audits, we find that people think that the sheep tags and goat tags are the one tag. They're not, they're different. They look the same. They're the same make and model, but they do have letters printed that are identified, and that's why we know the species. So when we're out there looking for specific animals, we like to see the correct. We know what we're looking for. So we'll find the tag. Where's this animal? We'll go to the place. We'll say, here it is. We've got the tag number because we know they are sheep. We know they are goats. And the very last report is, we'll go back home. We'll change this back to goats. I want to run the report. View generator reports. And look to see what is currently registered on my property. So these are all the things that are active. So I have not set these to inactive. If you know you've sold goats, you have sold some goats, and you know that those goats haven't been taken off the system, but you don't know who purchased them, you can go and then set them to inactive. And that's a simple process I'll show you very quickly. But this is what is active and on this property. So these include the 20 tags that I purchased, other animals that have been transferred on and off the property. Click on transfer date. So these are the ones I transferred today, just now in front of you. These 6. These are transferred back then. So this is what shows me what is on the system at this point in time. So very simply, log in, go to view livestock moved onto my property, do it on screen. If you do have a tag number that you know is no longer active, it's fallen out the animal's ear, you can go up to device status. There we go. Type it on screen. You type the tag number in here. Tag number in. What's the status? It's no longer around. So it's a inactive status. Turn the inactive status on and lost tag or tag fell out. That's going to set this tag to inactive. Now it doesn't delete it from the system. We still have it recorded against your property, but we know it's no longer on that active list. Hit send. It's now going to take that to the system and we get the same process. Here's your upload number. We go to view it. What have I done today? And there is the tag status upload. Come back as complete. And this is what the file looks like. So we're saying set this tag, IA inactive status because the tag fell out. Go back to home. So you can use the help. There's a lot of good help tools there. Make sure that you have goat selected. If you don't, you select it by going change my types of livestock and keep your details up to date. Move your livestock onto your property. Do it on screen. It's pretty simple. Any tags are lost or you know you sold the animal, it's no longer on your property. Device status. And go through and run as many reports as you like. That doesn't hurt the system at all. You can't break the system. So run whatever reports you want. Livestock can move on and off. Make sure they have been recorded on, recorded off, and the list of all your active and current tags on your property. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Yeah, also like George said, Integrity Systems, they have plenty of resources on their website and a YouTube account that posts, yeah, really great videos and tutorials. So check that out. But we might get into Q&A now. So if you have questions either for Rhonda or George, yeah, type them in the box, but we might get started. I just got a question for you, George, first of all. Sorry to put you on the spot, but someone said, I believe there's certain dairy goats in Victoria that are exempt from tagging, and when they go to a show, they fill in a way bill with taboos of the animal. Did you know more about that at all, or?
No. Again, that's we try not to get involved in regulations or legislation.
Yeah.
I know there were a lot of problems with infections with dairy goats in the initial stages, and there was a lot of work done by MLA researching infections and disinfectants to use. But as far as the rules and regulations are concerned, we don't. If I saw 10 goats at a show that weren't tagged, it's not my role to say anything.
Yeah, perfect. Also, you mentioned where to get the actual tags from. What about the taggers? Can you just get them from any rural supply stores or online or
Applicators,
yeah, the applicators?
you can get them from you're better off buying them at the same time you buy the tags.
Yeah.
But you can get them from your rural supplies, Elders, Nutrient, Rod Balls, all those ones. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, I got one for you, Rhonda. So
Well, one
some
of these tags are a lot cheaper in Victoria than anywhere else by a long shot. That's because you buy your tags directly from Victorian DPI. Don't know if you've got their number. I think it's 1-800-678-779, and they have a special deal with tag manufacturers. So make sure you look into that.
yeah, beautiful. There you go. That's one thing, good thing about Victoria. Rhonda, we got a question for you here. So someone's asked about a basic home first aid kit for goats. So do you have one of them, and what would you kind of have in that?
Oh, first aid
Yeah,
depends
first
on
aid
your
kit.
yeah, depends on your skill level. The most important thing is a digital thermometer. You cannot diagnose anything without a digital thermometer. What do we have? Oh, some bandages, some blood stops, always good. Definitely put on the spot here. You got to think what you've got there.
That's all
Um, we have injections and syringes and needles, but if your skill set isn't ready for that, then you don't have it. It's like a length of string.
right. Yeah,
It seriously depends on your skill set. There's no point in having antibiotics if you don't know what to do with them
yeah,
or how to use them.
awesome. We have a question. So, how important is registration with the Breed Society for someone who only wants goats as pets or just house milkers?
Not at all.
Not at
Not
all.
important at all.
But is there any benefits from registering in a Breed Society?
Yes, there is a network there that you'd learn and you can talk to people. It's more friends. You can learn who your neighbor or how close your goat friends are. And you are, what am I trying to say? You get to know if they have a pedigree, what breeds they come from.
Perfect. Got a question here for you, George. I don't know if it's in your range or not, but someone's using goats as a vegetation clearing business. So if they're doing residential property, are you still required to change the pick location if it's only for like a week or so? So where the goats are located?
Yes. Again, it's a big Victorian DPI. That 1-800-678-779. They can answer those questions. But my understanding is, as soon as they leave that property, you have to know the person. So where those goats land, you must notify the database within 48 hours.
Awesome. Yeah, someone also mentioned in the chat that Baron Squire is a good contact here in Victoria. If you've got a few questions like that as well, she's a
Amazing contact.
yeah. So one for you, Rhonda. So are there any goat breeds that are self-sufficient? So not as much human intervention needed, like rangeland goats that can be kept in a large enclosed paddock. So maybe just run through some breeds that are less hands-on if you have any ideas.
Um, Less hands-on would be your feral or rangeland. If you're not going to look after them and check them, don't get livestock. If you can't check your livestock or handle them, don't do it.
Perfect. This is a bit of a contentious topic. I don't know if any are quite practical, but with fencing, I know you ran through a little bit on it, but in terms of fencing, what would you say, or what do you kind of run on your property, and what have you kind of found is the best option for keeping goats in?
Right, this is our third property with goats. We now have horse mesh. Yes, it's expensive, but our power supply is intermittent on the odd occasion, so that's why we have it. But if you have good power supply, an electric fence of at least 7 strands, that's about 4 hot and 3 earths. That works really well. Or if you don't have horns, sheep mesh, sheep and lamb works quite well too, or pig mesh.
Perfect. This one might be for you, George, but you can also contribute, Rhonda. There's a few questions about microchipping. So they're asking, are you allowed to microchip and can that replace a tag?
No, no. And so the whole process is not for a specific type of animal running. It's the whole livestock industry. And I know most of these goats, or some of these goats, won't be going to meatworks, but meatworks don't want microchipping because it gets contaminated in the feed, in the meat. I know some people say, "Well, my goats are never going there," but it's one rule for everyone. But there is leg bands if they don't want to put, something in the animal's ear. Some people don't like the looks of them, but the answer is no.
Yeah, perfect. Probably a question for you, Rhonda. So someone here that had plenty of fresh grass, they're asking how much hay did you goats typically require daily, and is there like a best kind of product out there? Like what type of specific hay, or can they tolerate kind of anything?
The best hay is what is grown in your area because that is what will be cheapest. How much they need, I'm sorry, that's a piece of string question. Depends on your grass, it depends on your quality of grass, depends on what size the animal is, whether it's pregnant, dry, lactating. There is something called dry sheep equivalents that you can kind of use for goats, but you've got to know your property. There's no easy answer for that one.
Yeah. With there's a question here about family-friendly goats. So is there a good way when you're purchasing to kind of tell a goat's temperament? And is there breeds that are just more kind of friendly to be around?
Hand-raised ones are the most friendly ones. Some lines can come off their does. They don't have to be hand milked or hand fed. You need to visit, and if livestock don't come to you, potentially it's because they're not used to strangers, or it could be if they just keep running away, they're not particularly friendly.
Yeah, perfect. Got a question here. So when you're purchasing goats for milking, do you typically purchase like goats that are already lactating, or is it better to kind of buy them younger and then kind of get them in like pregnant and then put them into your herd?
Depends on your situation, but you will note that when you bring a new doe home that is milking, her milk volume will drop. Shifting home always makes your milk volume drop. So it's actually much easier if you can buy a pregnant doe or just a doe or does and get them pregnant yourself.
Awesome. We just have a few comments here. So, someone said the leg band collects a lot of mud in wet weather and they do have to be replaced as the animal grows. So, in their observation, they can be a pain, and they can get infections around the band. So, maybe keep that in. Have you experienced stuff like that as well, George? Do you find ear tags better than bands or?
Yeah, I mean, leg bands are typically only used with goats with very, very small no ears, as they say. That's usually the only time it's ever used. I've never seen goats being leg band for any other reason apart from the fact they don't have ears.
Yeah. Keep those questions in as well. We still got a bit of time, so keep them coming along. We got one about the best breeds for weed and blackberry clearing, Rhonda. Would they just be kind of those rangeland goats, or is yeah, some typically hardier than others?
Every goat loves blackberries. It's like chocolate to them. It depends on your setup. If you have sheds and shelter, then dairy goats are good. Or if you're not set up and you don't have proper fences, don't get goats.
Awesome. Another person has added that Agriculture Victoria has a fact sheet on the NLS requirements for livestock grazing operations. So, yeah, if you call their number, they'll put you through the closest animal health and welfare officer. So that might be a good option there. I don't know if you mentioned it, Rhonda, but with milking, is that typically once or twice a day, or is it just, yeah, up to you personally, or?
It's up to you personally. Some people will start off milking once a day. Other people will do it twice a day for the 12 months or run through. I personally do twice a day for 4 to 6 months and then once a day after that. And we milk through.
There's a question here about hoof trimming. So, do you typically do them like a set regimen at a time, or do you kind of wait until it like starts to become an option? And what utensil do you use for the hoof trimming?
If I only had a few animals, it would be regimented. But I have more than a few, so it's not regimented. It just gets done when it gets done. The implements that you use, hoof shears, a knife, pruners, or a grinder. It depends on what you feel comfortable with. Depends on the strength of your hands. That's one of those experiment and find out type things.
Yeah, perfect. Any more questions here? Might be one in here. Someone's asking about with treating goats while they're lactating, is there kind of procedures around that if you want to sell the milk?
If you want to sell the milk, there's licenses and permits. There are many of them that goes. You have to check your council and your government in the agricultural, environment, and health departments.
Awesome. So with purchasing goats, is it common to check like DNA records or like is it their health records in general?
DNA is really only for the pygmies and the Nigerian dwarfs. Some of the standards have DNA. Depends on what you want. If you just want a pet, you don't need the DNA, but if you're going to be a breeder, you'd actually like to know what you're buying.
Awesome. If there is any more questions, send them through. What else is there? There's a comment here that Gadar is sometimes available at some projects produce stores without a script, but certainly not all. Um, I think that's kind of all the questions that we have so far. We'll just have a quick skim. All right, I think that's pretty good. So, if there's no more questions, that might be about it. So, I'd like to thank Rhonda for that excellent presentation, and
Thank you.
also you, George. That was awesome, and yeah, straight to the point. It was great. I'll just quickly share my screen. I got a survey, so if you could just scan that with your phone, that would be appreciated. Also, if you tune in tomorrow at same time, 6 o'clock, we'll be running through. So we have John, who will cover mohairs, and Marlene, she will cover mainly bull goats. So yeah, tune in at 6, and yeah, it'd be great to see everyone there again. So yeah, I'd like to thank Rhonda and George for their awesome presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No
Thank you,
worries.
everyone.
Right.
Okay, done and dusted.